What's going on, peeps? Welcome to the first official Modern Maverick Podcast. I am your host, Stephane Paulin, a.k.a. the Modern Maverick himself, a.k.a. Steezy Peasy, a.k.a. the Vulture to some of my friends. This is the Modern Maverick Podcast, the first official video podcast. Now, why I say this is because last week, me and my good friend slash co-host, Jonathan Flynn, recorded about an hour and 20 minutes, but my video camera decided to only record about 20 minutes of it. So I have all the audio, but I have none of the video. So I thought to myself, I'm planning on making this a video podcast, and it wouldn't start well if I only started broadcasting the audio on my website. So I decided that I would restart this thing, and I invested in a nice video camera, which hopefully won't crap out on me after 20 minutes and will give me the opportunity to record as long as I want to without having to do this again. So that's it. Welcome. July 1st today. Happy Canada Day to all the Canadians out there. This is the Modern Maverick Podcast. I'm the host. I'm by myself today. I decided that for the first official video podcast, I'm going to introduce my podcast, and I'm going to do this by myself. I don't have a co-host or any guest today. It's a bit weird. I tried this for the first time last week. I had a co-host. There was a dynamic to it. We had conversations and debates about different things. Today, I said, you know what? I'm by myself at home. I'm going to record this, make it my first official one. But moving forward, I am planning on having always somebody next to me, helping me out, making this a bit more interesting. Because talking to myself for about an hour will probably get boring, and people will probably tune out after 20 minutes because, hey, how much can I say, for an hour? So this is the podcast. Basically, what I'm planning on doing in the structure or the content of the podcast, it's not any specific content-oriented podcast. There's going to be a lot of subjects, anything I feel like talking about, any message I feel like putting out there, helping out people, anything from, obviously I'm a big sports nut, and I tend to talk to my friends about mostly that, but there's more to that, and I think the podcast will show those things. If you visit my website, www.TheModerMaverick.net, you'll see that's the official website for the podcast, and you'll be able to see that the slogan is called Life, Sports, and Shenanigans. So basically that's what I'm planning on having on this podcast, is a lot of conversations or subjects regarding basically anything, and a lot of sports talk and a lot of shenanigans, and just shooting the shit with friends, guests, whoever I decide, or whoever wants to be on this podcast. I don't really want to decide, but if friends of mine or people want to come on the podcast, they're more than welcome. And I'll sit them next to me and we'll shoot the shit. I'm planning on doing this it's going to be about an hour. I think it's long enough with, the attention span of most people nowadays. You get bored fast, and I don't plan on keeping you guys entertained for very long. So about an hour. 50 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes. Maybe we'll go over, maybe we'll go under. Doesn't matter. I don't really have a set plan. Like I said, the content either. I'm going to try to write out some content. I'm going to try to do it on a weekly basis. So it's going to be a weekly podcast for the people out there, updating the website. On the website, www.modernmaverick.net, I will have all the podcasts, audio only, I believe, on the website, I think, and then have a link to the YouTube video of the podcast. You can also follow, or I created a Facebook page, good old Facebook, for free advertisements somewhat to all my Facebook friends. The Facebook page is called The Modern Maverick. You go ahead and like it if you want. Please go ahead and like it. I will post links to the podcast and other things that interest me, that make me giggle, that make me laugh, or that I think is a good message. The people that follow me on Facebook, I'm a bit all over the place. And sometimes, when I see something, a picture or a quote or something that I believe is a bit, relative to the time we live in, I post it. And, I'm always looking to motivate and inspire people in a certain way, maybe in an awkward way sometimes. But I think a lot of people out there are sitting at their work, at their desk, and need a bit of motivation, myself included. And this is why I'm doing this. I'm in the routine of life, and I fall in like everybody else, and I think we need to get out of it. And I think people need to be motivated. They need to be inspired. They need to be creative. And I think if more people were creative and more ambitious, we can have way more content from people that would be amazing. And I think a lot of people would I think, gravitate towards those kind of things. There's a lot of negative going on in the world today, and I think people need a positive outlook, a positive attitude, and a positive message of some sort. And basically, that's what I want my podcast to be. Of course, there's going to be a lot of crazy shit talk and everything, but I want it to be this escape maybe for about an hour where people can just listen up, laugh, and feel inspired or motivated from my content, from what I talk about. Or a big thing also is I want people to. I believe I'm all about knowledge lately. I'm trying to learn a lot about everything. Not everything, science and everything in their spiritual world and everything. And a lot of things that I learn, I like to talk about after if I find it's very interesting. I love to talk about it, and people seem to want to listen. So I thought, you know what? Fuck this. Maybe this is what I'm meant to be doing. I don't know. I really don't know. Listen, maybe nobody's going to be listening to this. Hopefully people will be listening to this. I really hope so. I ain't in no way, shape, or form a preacher of any sort. If you don't agree with stuff I'm saying on this podcast, turn it off. I have my own opinion, and I try to share my opinions. I don't change them for anybody. I don't expect anybody else to change their own opinion or views just because I tell them something or I say something on my podcast. I will be trying my best to be subjective on this podcast, but a lot of stuff is what I wanted to talk about and what I think is important or what I think people will want to hear. So basically that's going to be my podcast is a lot of random stuff to try to wake people up and make them realize that there's more to life than their little routine. And like I said, if it's only an escape for an hour or so, that they can listen to my podcast and it makes them laugh or makes them giggle and makes them put their mind somewhere else. That's great. And there's going to be a lot of, like I said, my life is mostly about, I spend a lot of my life at work and in the gym. I train a lot. I do mixed martial arts. For people that know me, they know I'm passionate about martial arts. So I am going to talk about martial arts on my podcast. I am going to talk about the UFC and about fights. I am going to talk about sports. I am a huge sports fan, baseball, basketball, hockey. And I follow a lot of it, and it's going to be I am going to give my opinion on a lot of things when it comes to sports and mixed martial arts. But it's not going to be everything about the podcast. There's going to be a lot more. I'm going to try to keep everything to a minimum so I could make people, not tune out when I've been talking about, the last UFC event for about 20 minutes. But unfortunately, it's probably going to happen. So that's a bit of introduction, I guess, to my podcast. I'd like to issue a warning, if I may. I do swear on my podcast, so please don't be sensitive. I do use words. It just comes out. I'm expressive, and sometimes I use expressive words like fuck and shit and motherfucker and other words, which hopefully you don't take it in a way where it'll make you want to turn it off. I will try to keep it to a minimum, but depending on the day, I might use more abrasive language, crude humor as well. I want to warn people. I have sometimes a sick, twisted sense of humor, and you don't have to agree with what I find funny, but please don't tune out or say, what the hell. That's just who I am. I'm a bit crazy sometimes. I laugh at certain things, and I try to see the comedic aspect in a lot of crazy shit that's going on in the world today. And I will make some, maybe, I don't know, distasteful, is that even a word? Jokes sometimes that maybe people won't get or won't like, but listen, that's just who I am. So the podcast this is on the internet, it'll be broadcast on the internet. There's no censorship. I will be swearing a bit sometimes, but I will try to keep it to a minimum because I know some people just don't like it. So I apologize in advance, but like I said, it's a little bit of a warning. And so again, website www.modernmaverick.net, Facebook page The Modern Maverick. You can also follow me on Twitter at Steph Paulin, STEPHPAULIN. So follow me on Twitter if you are on Twitter. I will also, like I said, have a YouTube channel. I will try to link it up to my personal channel. All my video podcasts will be linked up to YouTube. And on the website, there'll be a link to my stuff. That's about it for the introduction, I believe. I built my website myself. I didn't really show it to anybody. I've been using this website called www.wix.com. Amazing website. I used it a couple years back to build this website for a business that I was doing, and I loved it. It's basically it's building a website for idiots. If you know nothing about HTML coding and everything, just show up on this website, and it's a lot of drag and click and insert pictures and text, and the background is all done for you. So you don't really have to know a lot of HTML code. You actually don't need to know any of it at all. Excuse me. You go on this website, it's easy as pie. Honestly, I've been using this website for years now, building little projects left and right. And I build all this website that I have for the Modern Maverick. I built it all on this. It took me, honestly, I don't even think I worked. I probably worked a few hours. I'd say, because I'm a perfectionist, so a little, but less than 8 hours. Oh, way less than 8 hours. I'm pretty sure. And simple. I'm trying to keep my website very simple. Visit. There's going to be a homepage with a lot of my just nothing on. There's going to be a little menu on top. Podcast. You click on it. It's so easy. Listen, nowadays you'd be crazy to pay somebody $5,000, and believe me, I requested quotes to have websites built, and they listen, $5,000 to have a website built from A to Z and hosting and everything. It's great when you don't have to do work, but it's $5,000 out of your pocket. I mean, that's a lot of money. When you can go into these websites like Wix.com and you could create for free, absolutely free. You can create, you can modify, you can edit anything you want. And then if you decide to put it online and put it live, they'll charge you something like $12, $13, $14, depending on the package you choose. Anywhere from, I think it's from $9 a month to, I don't know, the highest price is definitely under $20. They offer you a certain storage space and some package with bandwidth, a certain maximum, or the one I chose, I believe, is unlimited bandwidth, which means I can basically have as much traffic on my website. Obviously, it's limited for certain things, but for a basic website, for most people nowadays, I mean, when somebody browses a website, they don't want anything complicated. I mean, Flash, none of that stuff. They all use HTML. I think it's HTML5. And it's amazing. You could view it on iPad, on your iPhone. It's super easy. So if you're ever thinking about building a website of some sort, check it out. Wix.com. There's a lot of other ones out there. I've tried other ones, but personally, I love Wix.com. I think it's the easiest one out there. So if you're out there listening and you say, man, I wish I could build a website, but I don't know anything about the codes and everything, Wix.com, ladies and gentlemen, visit this website. Amazing website. It'll help you build. I built the website Modern Maverick. I built other website, and it's super easy. They're not a sponsor, by the way. I'm talking about them for about, I don't know, 2-3 minutes now, even more. I have no sponsors right now, so I don't have an introduction. Normally, if I did have sponsors, I would try to introduce them at the beginning of the podcast, but I have no sponsors. This is my first official broadcast. I didn't request any sponsors. I didn't look out there for any sponsors. I'm not looking to make any money off of this. It would be fun. It would be great, like I said, but I'm not looking to make millions. This is basically, I discovered a way to broadcast my information and my point of views on the internet for basically free or for very little investment. So I'm doing it. Basically, that's it. This is it. So I have no sponsors, but, hopefully one day if you're out there, if you're listening and you have a business, a small business, you're looking to, let me know. I'll give out a shout out if you want me. I definitely use some sponsors. I know small businesses could always use shout outs out there, especially in the area. So if you're interested, let me know, on Twitter, through Facebook, whatever, send me a message. I will gladly talk with you, and if everything is okay, I'll gladly mention you on my podcast. But for now, I have no sponsors, and that's just fine with me. If I ever have any, that's fine. I'll be happy. But if I don't, then so be it. This is, like I said, I'm not doing this to make any money. It's basically just to put my content out there, and hopefully I can inspire and motivate. Again, I use that thing a lot, but I think this is the main goal. And I also want to show people a different perspective of who I am. Some people might think that I'm this certain type of guy, and maybe this puts it out there that I'm maybe a bit more different or open than some people might think. So, but yeah, that's about it. I mean, so check it out. Check my website out, please. Like my Facebook page. That would be greatly appreciated. As far as the content is concerned regarding my podcast, like I said, it's gonna be a lot about what I feel like talking about, what's in the news, maybe if something's interesting to me. If I read something interesting that week and I want to broadcast it on the podcast, I will. So hopefully, like I said, there's also going to be a lot of sports, a lot of UFC, a lot of this, a lot of that. But I'm going to try to keep everything with the equal amount of time spent on. And like I said, once I have a co-host or somebody, a guest, obviously when I have a guest, I will try to have somebody that has knowledge on something, and we discuss mostly about that. If I have so-and-so on my podcast and I've just given an example, I don't know, he's an expert in something that I'm interested or I find interesting, obviously I will have him on, and we'll discuss about that. But I'll also try to discuss about other things as well, other things that I think I like or I want to discuss about. And I think it's great. I'm really happy about the fact that I can do this out of my house, sitting at my kitchen table with a video camera, a microphone, a bit of audio recording. Everything is free. I mean, my software that I'm using to record is free. I invested less than $500 all into this, excluding my camera, maybe less than $1,000. And I used secondhand equipment, which I found online. I bought microphones. I got 2 mics, a mixer board, everything. It's amazing. And I'm recording this right now. I'm going to broadcast it on my website. Listen, everybody could do it. Everybody. That's the amazing thing about technology nowadays, is that everybody can do it. Anything. There's so many things out there on the internet. So many things. Social media by itself is so huge nowadays. You can put your message out there for free. All you have to do is create a Twitter account, and you can blab about, tweet about anything you feel like for under 140 characters. You just go ahead and tweet and tweet and tweet. And if you get followers, you get followers. I think that's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing where people can just put their message out there. And if people get interested in what they have to say, and people can just follow and have conversation online with people. Like I have about, right now, I don't know, give or take 850 or 60 followers on Twitter. I have conversations with not all of them, obviously, but a lot of my followers on Twitter are from the MMA community, which I am a big part of on Twitter. There's people that tweet a lot on the daily. I don't tweet a lot. Sometimes I do. I go through these spurts where I do tweet a lot, but most of the time, no. If there's a UFC fight or MMA fight, I do tweet a lot concerning the event and my opinions on the stuff and my predictions and so on and so forth. But when it comes just on the weekly stuff, I don't tweet. I would love to, but sometimes I just don't have the time when it comes to either being at work or being at home with my family and my son and everything. Sometimes I do spend a lot of time on my iPhone, but sometimes I just don't have anything to say, so I just don't say anything. But social media is an amazing tool. I mean, Facebook is so huge. Twitter is so huge. It makes everyday life, the internet, the technology makes everyday life so easier. It's amazing. And I think in the last 10, 15, 20 years, the internet is the biggest tool that makes life a lot easier. I mean, Google itself is amazing. If you want to know anything, you just Google it. I mean, that's it. That's basically it. You Google it, you find out anything you want on the internet, and for free, for absolutely free. I mean, remember back in the day where we didn't have the internet, you wanted to know something about, anything, where would you go? You had, what was it? You had these books, encyclopedia. Sorry, my French is kicking in. And but these things would cost a fortune, like $1,000 for I don't know how many books, and you had to get all the letters from A to Z, and then you had to do reading and try to figure it out and look. I mean, no, man, the internet is such an amazing tool. The technology, where we are today is amazing, and I use it to its full potential, or I try to, and This is what I'm doing here with my podcast. I'm using it to as much knowledge as I have about it, and I'm using it, and I'm trying to, like I said, use it to its full potential so I could, I guess, make a difference, as tacky as that may sound. I think everybody has the capacity or the potential to make some sort of difference in this world, even if it's just something they say or do, even if it's very small or very big. I think people have to realize that there's so much potential out there to reach people, and that the internet and other things, other tools and technology gives you that opportunity. And I think people need to start realizing that we don't all have to fall into this little routine where we just, I get it. I understand. I have a family. I have a son. I work an 8 to 5 job like everybody else just to pay the bills. And listen, it's part of the routine. I realize that I have responsibilities like everybody, and we have to do those things. I have to pay the bills. I have to put a roof over my family's head. I have to put food on the table. I have to do these certain things. And obviously, I want to be able to buy stuff for myself and for my family so they can have an enjoyable life and something fun to do. So without a job, I obviously wouldn't be able to do these things. So I'm grateful for those things. But that is also a routine I think a lot of people fall into, and they stop chasing and following their dreams. Everybody's got dreams. You get out of high school, you get all these ambitions and these dreams, and you're going to university, you're going to college, and people are so ambitious when they're young, and it's amazing. And then I've been through it. I'm 32 years old, and people start realizing when they're in their late 20s, they're like, oh, I didn't accomplish this, I didn't do this. I spent so much time in school and this and that, and I just fell into the routine. I got a job. I went to school. I got a job. I got a family, got married, so and so. There's nothing wrong with that. Listen, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's the majority of people. That's what they do. That's what they want to do. They just want to be able to go to work, go home, relax, have fun with their family. But for some people, including myself, there's a lot more in here. There's a lot more in here that I have to put out there. They just can't be just that. And I think this is why I'm doing a podcast. This is why I'm doing anything, is because I want to be able to do something that I enjoy, something that I love, and without really being about money. For the longest time, it was all about, I need to make more money and this and that. I mean, I went to college, very short college life for a year. I did a course. I did a small certificate I did a 1-year certificate in a small business management. I graduated from college. I was 19 years old. I basically started working full time at 20, 19 even, living on my own and paying my bills. Obviously had the help from my family a lot, but I was living on my own, and I was making ends by working a full-time job. And then I was young, having fun, going out mostly every night, partying with my friends, and it was amazing. But I was also 21 years old, and from basically what seems to be a blink of an eye, I'm in my mid-20s doing the same thing and realizing, oh shit, like if I don't do something with my life right now, or start planning to do something with my life, I'm going to be 35, 45, and I'm going to be in the same position. Now, do I want that? That's one question I ask myself. And a lot of people ask themselves, and they'll be, yeah, that's basically what I want. I just want to go to work, collect my paycheck, go home, spend as much time with my family as possible, and just then that's it. And go back to work and do that. Have the weekends off. It's great. It's great. But some people, like myself, there's a bit more. There's a fire burning inside that says, you know what? I don't want just that. I want to be able to have more, do more. And so it takes a very long time to discover or to find out what those things are. And through trial and error, most of the time you figure out that you figure out what you really are meant or really want to do. I've tried many things in my life. I've been passionate about many things that I didn't work out, and just came to realize that maybe that's not really what I wanted in life. I took a lot of risk in life, and it paid out most of the time. But a lot of times, it didn't really pay out, and it just ended up setting me back. But I realized that in order to achieve so many things, you had to give it a try and keep moving forward and try to keep a positive attitude on all these things. Listen, I might be sounding like a preacher right now. I don't want to sound like that. I'm just trying to shoot the shit and just trying to figure out or trying to explain to people, I think, what I've been through and where I'm at in my life and where I want to be in my life. And I've found a lot of things that have helped me channel the energy and focus the energy. Obviously, mixed martial arts is a big part of my life now. I've been practicing mixed martial arts since, oh my God, 7 or 8 years now. And it was just one of those things when I first walked into a gym and discovered mixed martial arts. I mean, I knew what it was. I watched it on TV. I mean, I've been following the UFC basically since the beginning. I'm not shitting you. I remember watching the first ever UFC event. I remember being a combat sports fan, including boxing at a very young age. I remember watching a lot of boxing when I was young on TV. And when the UFC came around, it was just a different dynamic. And I remember saying, wow, that's amazing. But where I came from, where I grew up, you didn't have these opportunities except maybe some martial arts like Taekwondo and karate and stuff like that, which I was never into. I never decided to follow through on any of those, but I wanted to be in boxing when I was a kid, but it wasn't an option where I lived. There was no boxing school or gym. It wasn't until I was in my mid-20s till I really decided to push forward and trying to pursue something because I was so passionate about it. And I guarantee when I discovered mixed martial arts, it propelled my life in a totally different direction for the better. Discipline-wise, it changed a lot about my life. I discovered a lot about myself, what my limits were and how far I was able to push myself from the first competition I ever did, from the first fight I ever got into. So many fears that I faced and just pushed through. I remember the first time I stepped into a cage. Man, I was scared as shit. I was scared. I remember the guy was walking down the aisle, this dude, and I kept thinking to myself, like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm in this cage in the middle of Ohio, in this United States, just 2,000 American fans screaming, booing us Canadians who were there. It was so intimidating. But I remember digging deep and going, man, I've trained hard for this, and I've put myself through hell, so many days in the gym, so many hours in the gym, worked through injuries and bumps and bruises and training partners, helping me out. I'm like, this is it, And I remember after the fight, I didn't get the win I was looking for. I think the result wasn't what I was looking for, but there was still a sense of accomplishment in there, which was amazing. I was like, the fact that I was able to step in there, and for anybody that does any combat sports, any mixed martial arts will tell you, man, if you're able to step into that ring or that cage, it takes a special type of person to be able to do so. Not only step into that and compete, it takes a special type of commitment to train so many hours. I mean, the hours put in the gym, the commitment, the sacrifices I made, the sacrifices my girlfriend made when I moved here, the hours I put in the gym where, I was not at home. That's a lot of time spent. And mixed martial arts is a big part of my life now. I love it. I practice it still today. I know that I'm not going to be I had ambitions to be a professional fighter, and I think that boat has somewhat sailed. I'm not saying I might not fight ever again. I'm just saying, I realize that my time is a bit more limited now that I'm 32 and I spend a lot of time at work and with my family. I've prioritized differently now, and that's just a decision I wanted to make. But still, mixed martial arts is a big part of my life, and it's just an example of what people can find and something that they can start practicing in life, whether it be mixed martial arts or any sorts of sports or any sorts of exercise, any sorts of hobby or anything, painting, dancing. I know a lot of people, it's just, if you love to dance and you just want to do it, but you're like, I don't, just fucking do it. Just go and do it. Find somebody that can help you. The internet, go Google something in your area. If you want to do something, if you're passionate about something, listen, it's out there. Just go and do it. If you want to do anything, even if it's just socially, even if it's just being sorry, it's because I see that my son and my girlfriend are here right now. Sorry about that. My girlfriend, I told her to text. I actually didn't tell her to text me before this. Anyway, I was just rambling on. I've been going on for about 38 minutes right now. She's here. I think my son fell asleep in the car. I'm going to try to wrap this up as fast as possible. I apologize for the interruption, but my girlfriend was out, so I wasted a lot of time setting up my stuff, and she thought I would be done by now. It's the afternoon. I have to try to wrap this up. But listen, at the end of the day, I'm doing this podcast because that's just what I want to do. If people are going to listen, then great. If they're not going to listen, then listen, I don't control anything out there. I spend a lot of time on this, but it's time that I want to spend. And like I said, moving forward, I will have co-host people. Listen, the co-host I had last week, Jonathan Flynn, good friend of mine. The guy was in radio for years. He's more comfortable in front of a mic than I am. It's going to take time for me to get more comfortable and try to do the things that I'm not supposed to do and try to cut those things out, like the ums and the and things that I'm not supposed to say or talk so close to the mic, so on and so forth, and look so maybe a bit more nervous up here. He's a bit more comfortable, and like I said, he's going to be a big part of my podcast. I want him to be. And when he has the time, he'll be sitting next to me, and hopefully I can get some guests. So out there. I have a few people lined up already. I've spoken to a few people. Hopefully I can get guests on. Like I said, my podcast is going to be about an hour, between 50 minutes to 70 minutes. Anything, it might stretch over that. It might not, but that's what it's going to be. I might have rambled on a little bit today. I was just planning on trying to introduce the podcast. And honestly, it's something that I'm totally new at this. People listening to this right now are probably, listen, I welcome criticism. If you have any, you probably have a lot, but I'm doing my best and not to just ramble on. It's, like I said, I'm new to this. It's the first time I do this. I move a lot. I fidget a lot, but that's just who I am. And as we go on, as I keep pumping these podcasts out there, week after week, I'm just going to get better. The content is going to get better. And hopefully I'm going to have week after week guests that'll be entertaining and interesting, and we'll be able to have some conversation. So once again, this was basically the first official podcast. Before I wrap things up, I want to talk about a few things. I've written some stuff down. UFC 162 coming up next week. Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman. I just want to throw out my previews and predictions out there. Fast, all right? Fast out here. A few fights on here. The card looks like a pretty good card. There's a few fights that I'm looking forward to. Mark Munoz against Boach. There's Frankie Edgar versus Oliveira, which should be an entertaining fight, in my opinion. I mean, Frankie Edgar, every time he steps into the octagon, it's just nothing but entertainment, and the guy is got heart like no other fighter. And the main event, Anderson Silva, Chris Weidman, which a lot of fighters seem to be picking Weidman. Not sure if they're trying to sell this. I'm not sure if the UFC heads have gotten to a lot of those fighters and say, listen, you need to promote this in a way where people are going to tune in. Listen, Chris Weidman, he's good. He's undefeated. He's beaten Mark Munoz. He's beaten some good he's good, amazing grappler. Comes out of a strong camp. His stand-up, his boxing, amazing. Against Munoz, he caught him with that elbow, cut him, and finished him off. Amazing. But, I mean, do people seem to forget that Anderson Silva is undefeated in the octagon? He's undefeated in his UFC career. He's got, 10 title defense or 11 title defense over 18 fights in the UFC, 16 or 18 fights. My stats are off here, but the guy has destroyed everybody he's put in front of him. And how can you discount this guy? He's fighting a guy with 9 fights, and that a lot of people think that he's going to upset, but I just don't see it. My prediction is that Anderson Silva is going to win, and he's going to win in the same way he's won through all his other fights, mainly. He maybe except an exception for this first Sonnen fight where he got beaten up for 4.5 rounds and he pulled off that triangle. But every other fight, he's dominated. He's dominated. The first round against Dan Henderson is basically the only other round he's ever lost in his life, if you take away the Sonnen fight that I can think about right now. So, listen, he's a beast. I think he's going to go in there. His stand-up is way too good. We're just way too good. He's going to control the action, and he's going to end up TKO. I think he's going to end up knocking him out, or it's going to end by TKO, either late in the second, maybe early in the third, but this fight doesn't make it out of the third, in my opinion. That's my opinion. I'm not saying Chris Weidman is not going to shock the world or it doesn't have a possibility, but I don't see it happening. As far as the other two fights that I mentioned earlier, Frankie Edgar against Oliveira, I think this is a fight that Frankie Edgar rebounds and, comes back strong. After I think his last fight was his first fight at 145 was against Aldo. So that was a big loss for him. But again, I think he comes back strong. I think Edgar's going to take this one. I think he's going to TKO. I think you know what? Unanimous decision. I think Edgar's just going to control the pace of the fight, and it's going to be a unanimous decision for Frankie Edgar. Mark Munoz versus Tim Boetsch. I think Boetsch, same thing. Munoz has been out for a very long time since his loss to Weidman. And I don't know if you guys seen his pictures online, but I saw yesterday that he ballooned up to about 260 pounds after that loss. And there's pictures online where you see the difference, where he's, wow, it was amazing, the transformation. I'll give him that, amazing transformation where he dedicated himself to dropping back down to his 190 walking weight just before the fight, where he could cut to 185. But I mean, those pictures of him at 260 pounds and the guy fights at 185. I think he went through some hard times after that fight. Might have been a bit depressed and, unmotivated. It's a long layoff for him. And Tim Boetsch, I mean, he's impressed a lot of people and surprised a lot of people. So I don't think people should discard this guy so fast. I think Tim Boetsch is going to take this fight. I think he's going to take it to Munoz, and I think it's going to be a tight fight. It's going to be a very close, disputed fight, but I think Tim Boetsch is going to take the unanimous decision or maybe a split decision, but I predict he's going to take the win in this one. What other fights on the card? There's a few other fights. I wanted to predict the fight of the night, and if there's any upsets out there. I'm just going to pull up the fight card in front of me right here. UFC 162. I don't really see any. I saw a few upsets. I don't really know if you can consider this an upset. Chris Lieben is also fighting in the prelims, and he's fighting Andrew Craig, which I don't know much about. So I guess you can consider this an upset if Andrew Craig wins. I think that's going to be somewhat my upset prediction of the fight card. Also, Gabriel Gonzaga against Dave Herman, coming off that suspension for weed. Dave Herman, which has a lot of potential, but I'm not even sure who's favored in this. I think Gabriel Gonzaga should be favored maybe in this fight. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't done a lot of research on this card, but if I had to pick a fight of the night prediction, I would have to go with, Frankie Edgar, Charles Oliveira. I think that's going to be an amazing fight. There's also Cub Swanson against Dennis Seaver, the first on the main card. I think that could be fight of the night contender, but at the end of the day, I think any fight Frankie Edgar fights in, you have a chance to be fight of the night any day. So fight of the night prediction, I'll go with that. And like I said, I think Andrew Craig might be the upset. I don't even know, hopefully he's the underdog in this fight. I might not even know what I'm talking about, but it's a great card. So UFC 162 out of Las Vegas this Saturday. I'm excited about this fight. I'm excited about the main event. I'm excited to see anytime Anderson Silva fights it's a good fight. Even if I just tune in for the main event or something, it's going to be good. So hopefully, great card ahead of us. So that's it. That's the last thing I wanted to mention on my podcast. So I apologize if I've been rambling on for about 50 minutes. I just wanted to do a quick introduction to my podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and please be patient with me. I will get better at this. This is the first time, and hopefully the next week's podcast, I'll have a guest, I'll have a co-host, and we can go through a proper podcast about an hour's long, like I said. And visit me, www.modernmaverick.net. follow me on Twitter at Steph Paulin, StepHPaulin, and like my Facebook page, The Modern Maverick. Check it out on YouTube, too. And I will try to have a blog up as well that I will have connected to the website. I'm not sure what I'm going to have on the blog content. Maybe just some shenanigans and some content, some crazies, just anything. I'm also on Instagram at Steph Paulin. Same thing. I think I have the same tag name as my Twitter. So if you're on Instagram, follow me on Instagram at Steph Paulin. Same thing as my Twitter, StepHPaulin. I post a lot. I use Instagram. I just love it. I love the picture aspect of it. I don't know. I'm a huge geek when it comes to that stuff. I love using it. I love social media. I just love it. I love using it, and it's such a great marketing tool. I think that any small business or anybody should be using to get your information or your news or anything. It's so easy to use. And so once again, thank you for listening to the first official Modern Maverick podcast. I appreciate everybody that was patient enough to stay through the 50-some minutes of this first podcast. Like I said, I probably rambled on about a lot of stuff, but hopefully you will enjoy. Hopefully you'll tune in. Hopefully you'll keep visiting my website. And like I said, I promise that week in and week out, I will try to put an entertaining podcast, some good material on this, and hopefully people will tune in. Tell your friends, your family about it. Anybody that's on the internet, tell them about it if you like it. Just please, the more people listen to this, the more motivating it is for me, and the better the better it makes this podcast. I mean, the goal is to have people listening and tuning in. It's not a live podcast, so I'm pre-recording this for now. And like I said, it's going to be on YouTube, on the website. So thanks again for tuning in. So hopefully next week we'll have a co-host or a guest, maybe. I'll see what I can work out for next week. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you. Bye.